I only have 4 notes from the whole movie.
From the whole movie?
That's rare. First, it says, great first act spook setup. Like the spookiness at the beginning was very good.
Yeah.
The guy from the embassy who's angry for no reason. Frank Oz played that embassy guy.
Oh.
And he comes in and he's such a dick.
Yeah.
No reason for him to be like that. And then it says, blood was redder in the 70s and 80s.
Oh, yeah.
When you look at movies now from the 70s and 80s, you're like, oh, that blood looks so fake.
But that's the color of actual blood.
That's way more realistic than it is.
Everything's like a burgundy now.
Yeah, it's so dark. And then when you actually see a large quantity of blood, you're like, oh, it looks fake.
It does.
It's so
like
much brighter than you think.
fluorescent red.
It's so bright.
It's crazy.
There's so many things like that where movies have changed what we think, that our reality seems wrong because we've watched movies that do certain things. Like remember, well, I guess it's not as much now because nobody uses phones, but you'd hang up and hear a dial tone.
Yeah.
It's never a thing that happened.
No.
Every car squeals its tires when it just goes anywhere.
Oh, yeah.
How often do you hear a tire squeal?
Almost never.
Yeah. All right, well, enough talk about tires. Welcome everyone to a very spooky episode of I Love This, You Should Too. My name is Indy, Red Blood Randhawa. And with me is my lovely co-host, Samantha, Tire Squeal Randhawa. Was that a tire squeal or that was a ghost?
No, that was a ghost. I thought it was pretty obvious that it was a ghost. Spooky ghost.
I wonder if any of this will pick up. I don't think it will, but for whatever reason, the neighborhood dogs are going wild right now and they're howling. And I've never heard of howling dogs here.
No.
They must know that we are now going to talk about the 1981, I'm going to say horror comedy classic, An American Werewolf in London. We're doing all spooky stuff, all Spooktober. Ooh. We're taking turns picking movies. This was my pick. It was something that I'd seen probably not in 20 years, but a movie that I always said, that's a great movie and underappreciated. Samantha had never seen it, never even heard of it. So upon your first watch, Samantha, what'd you think?
I enjoyed it. It was fun. I thought that it was funny in parts. I thought it was kind of spooky in parts. And I really enjoyed the wolf parts. There was so much from this, and I don't know if it's like because of this movie wolf things are like this, but it's like there was a lot of genre specific things that happen in most wolf things now that I wasn't sure if, because I don't know how many previous werewolf movies there were, but it was fun to be like, oh yeah, every werewolf movie does that. It's great.
I think this borrowed a lot from previous movies and often makes direct reference to them and talks about some of the movies in this one. So we'll go through things and you have to tell me which things there are, but it might all be more werewolf lore. I think one of the things that was unique to this one, or to me at least, was one of my favorite bits about the people that the werewolf killed, those unsettled souls who were the walking undead who were haunting him.
Yeah.
That was unique to
fun.
this, and I think that was a great element.
I think that's really good. And I think it gives you a lot of things to kind of play with when you're thinking about the werewolves.
Well, we are going to talk about this. It's going to be all spoiler filled. It's going to be more analysis than summary because you should already know the movie because we're going to talk about it. Well, I feel like it's been a while since we had an episode of like, you got that from this? Although maybe not. Maybe you're surprised about all the things that I bring into pretty much every movie. I don't know.
I'm just always very impressed with your ability to pull stuff out of a movie. Whereas I'm like, oh, werewolves, that was fun. I liked when they were hairy.
You know what?
You're like, and the hair means da 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 da.
Well,
and it
maybe
goes
it's about
back
latent homosexuality. We might get into a little going back because of werewolf lore, but I didn't do any werewolf lore research. I just know what I know from the world, which I bet is from movies mostly.
Yeah, probably. Okay, Indy, you'd seen this forever ago. Did you enjoy it?
Yes. Right after, I didn't think I loved it like 10 out of 10 like I thought I did. I thought it was like, oh, it's really good, but it has some structural issues. And then today I sat down to make my notes on it and ended up writing an essay. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe it was pretty good. Maybe it's pretty good.
Okay, well, I'm excited to hear your essay.
Well, let's talk about this movie. Since I kind of have more thematic stuff, we're not going to go point by point in the plot. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about production and the time of the movie, although I don't have much on that. Because we have all those featurettes sitting upstairs, but I never had a chance to watch all the behind-the-scenes stuff from the Blu-ray. But let's also talk about the title of the movie and cultural clashes that implies. I want to talk about references to other wolf-like stuff. I want to talk about guilt. I think there's a lot about guilt in this movie. We'll probably talk about the tone, because it is kind of unique in the way this sets up a horror comedy. And we're going to have to talk about the special effects at some point, too, because they were pretty great.
Yeah.
I think.
Okay.
So let's start off. John Landis wrote this and directed it, and he is a director that probably people know from comedy movies like Animal House and Blues Brothers and Three Amigos and something else he did that's actually my favorite of his, but I forget what it is now.
Trading Places?
Trading Places, yeah, that is it. Have you seen any of those?
No.
They
I have
are
seen none of those.
well-known and well-loved comedies of their time, which is before our time. But Trading Places kind of got into my time because I was watching those movies as a kid.
Okay. Beverly Hills Cop 3.
Yeah, but that was the worst Beverly Hills Cop. So I don't want to credit him too much with that. He also had a bunch of bad news on the Twilight Zone movie, but I don't know enough about it to talk about it like an expert. But somebody died on that movie, and a lot of people say it was because of his negligence in the stunt coordination. I don't know enough about it, though, so I go look into it.
Sounds good.
And he got the idea of this story when, as a child or teen, he witnessed some Romani burial rites that were meant to deter werewolves.
Oh.
And of course, that's going to make you think, oh, but werewolves. But also, when you are just someone of this world, like he was born in 1950 or something, he's like a boomer aged guy. And to be of that age and then still see people doing things about werewolves, there's like a dissonance to that of like an old world meeting the new world that doesn't quite sit right. And I think there's a lot of that carries into this movie. He did have some regrets about changing and cutting things to get an R rating in the US. He had to make the sex scene less explicit. The attacks by the wolf was more graphic before. And at one point when Jack, the undead Jack, is eating toast, a piece of it falls out of his torn throat after he swallows it.
Oh.
And they had to cut that.
Oh, yikes.
Although I've heard people reference it, so it must be reincorporated into some later cuts that I haven't seen.
A different version?
Yeah. He also said that the whole werewolf transformation thing he would have cut shorter, but he made it so long because he was like, this looks so good. I just have to put it in. And maybe, you know what you probably know John Landis from, is after seeing this, a man by the name of Michael Jackson called him up and said, like, let's make a video together.
Oh.
That video went on to be probably the most famous music video of all time. Thriller.
Oh.
If you look at like stage 2 Jack in this, you're like, oh yeah, that's the zombies from Thriller.
Oh.
So Rick Baker, who did the makeup effects and won an Oscar for it, went and did Thriller with him.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I did think that it did seem a little like pop culture music video makeup sometimes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think this movie kind of ushered in a lot of that. This was huge. This won the very first Academy Award for Best Makeup.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
I wonder if they saw this and they're like, oh, we need an award for that because this is nuts.
I was thinking that actually as you were saying it. I was like, oh, I wonder if they created that because this year was so significant.
There was only one other nominee, and it was a movie I've never heard of.
Oh, interesting.
It's called Heart Beeps.
Heart Beeps?
I think that's what it was. I read this like a week ago, and it was like a romance between robots.
Okay.
I kind of want to watch Heart Beeps now.
That's a very silly name. but it could be really cute.
Maybe. Who knows? But I think in the pre-episode, we were talking a little bit about cycles of horror movies, how vampires and zombies kind of alternate in cycles. And we talked about how that reflects who's president of the United States at that time.
Right, yeah.
But werewolf is a much longer cycle. It does not come up nearly as much, but this was part of a werewolf resurgence of the 80s. I think the 80s was the biggest werewolf time since, I don't know, the 30s, 40s? So in 81, you had An American Werewolf in London. That same year, The Howling and Wolfen came out. Then you got into some comedy stuff like Full Moon High was in 82. The Company of Wolves in 84, Silver Bullet in 85. I think The Howling had a bunch of sequels as well. But maybe the most famous now? Teen Wolf from 1985.
Oh.
With Michael J. Fox. And then Teen Wolf 2 with Jason Bateman.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Young Jason Bateman.
He was just a wolf pup.
Just a pup.
And, maybe my favorite, Monster Squad from 1987, where we learned once and for all the question that has plagued so many of us when it comes to werewolves. Do you know that mysterious question? Does Wolfman have nards? And in the end, Wolfman's got nards.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I've never wondered that, but I'm so glad I know now.
I have a t-shirt with a picture of a Wolfman.
Of course you do.
And underneath it, it says, Wolfman's got nards. Because it's like a silly movie about kids that are foiling a Frankenstein, a Wolfman, and a Dracula. They're all and they're the Monster Squad, these kids. Because this was in the time in the 80s where kids would roam the streets and fight monsters, like in Goonies and this and everything like that. So the werewolf's going to catch this kid. And the other kid goes, kick him in the nards. And he goes, Wolfman doesn't have nards. And then he kicks him and he goes, Wolfman's got nards.
This sounds like a shirt that you could wear to many occasions.
I think so. Weddings, funerals, just work.
The other film was called Heart Beeps.
Heart
all one
Beeps.
word, which is interesting.
Are we going to watch that next?
Yeah, I'm going to click on it and see what it's actually about.
Or maybe we should just watch a Monster Squad. No, you know what we should do is get back to the movie we're talking about.
We're doing a thing right now. That's right.
Let's go back to grade 10 English, where we analyze the title of a movie. An American Werewolf in London. What's that make you think of, Samantha?
I don't know.
No, I was going to just think of werewolves in London.
Oh, well,
but an
yeah.
American one.
I was trying to think like you.
So it's a reference to Werewolf of London, which
Right.
was already a famous movie, and An American in Paris, which is another famous movie, but a musical, not about werewolves.
True.
Also very good. You'd probably like that.
I have heard that I would probably like it
From me.
from you multiple times.
But right in the title, it kind of sets up this cultural clash, and cultural dislocation and confusion is a big theme throughout this movie. Like when we get to the pub, the slaughtered lamb. Oh, and they ride in with all the lambs. They're one of the lambs, and then they're led to the slaughter one. They're leading lambs to the slaughter. Oh, it's
Literally.
right there. Wow, I didn't even catch that. It's so obvious I didn't even catch it till now. So they're at the slaughtered lamb, and the man in the pub saw the Alamo, but the movie in London in the cinema. And David, later on when he wants to be arrested, he just publicly disrespects the Queen because he's like, that'll get you arrested, right? Because today, if you did that in the U.S., you would get arrested for disrespecting their wannabe king.
Right. True.
It's about geography and the dissonance there, but it's also about the American mentality, the American ego bumping into an old world mystery. So David comes in and he has like this touristy bravado. He's cracking jokes. He's going, what's with the star on the wall? He's expecting the familiarity and friendliness of a small town bar that he'd walk into in Wisconsin or something. And that's not what he's getting here. He is expecting things on his terms, and they are not willing to reciprocate it. Their Americanness, their essentially Americanness, becomes like a blind spot to them. They're loud, they're casual, and they're very unprepared for what they're finding themselves in. And what they get thrown into is the British Gothic tradition of horror,
Yeah.
and they were not ready for it. So it's an interesting dissonance both in these characters and the world they're in, but also in terms of literature, because this movie kind of mirrors the shifts in horror literature. And I'm considering books and films all part of literature in this. So the movie is doing itself by taking a folktale and bringing it to the city. So it's kind of trying to reconcile the old with the new, the American with the British, because British horror has traditionally leaned very rural. Classic British horror tales are always about castles and moors and old manors. Even if there's houses, they're not in the middle of the city.
Right.
They're these ancient curses, things of the past.
Spooky things happen in the country, not in the city.
Yeah. The rural setting kind of connects the story with a forgotten or buried history, and the horror tends to come from something very old and ancient and forgotten resurfacing. And that's what we get with the werewolf. They tend to be tied to folklore and the persistence of the past. And then when things move to the city, culturally, you could probably say like post Jack the Ripper, we start getting into that in British fiction. But in film, it's really not until post 1970s where horror is a part of the city. It's things that are from urban areas that we should now be afraid of. And here we get to see all of that in 1 minute, in one movie, because you get the superstition and the folklore from the old world making its way into the big city of London. And it's doing that through David, who is someone of the new world who doesn't really have a respect or knowledge of all of these old traditions that he's found himself in the middle of. In a way, like the curse is a way of maintaining the balance. An ancient world is fighting back against the modern arrogance, and David doesn't just turn into a werewolf. He's forced to reckon with this past world that he's never thought of or even tried to understand.
I thought that it was the country scene at the slaughtered lamb. Is that what it was called? Yeah. I always thought, I really thought that the difference between their like teenage bravado and like their just kind of trust that like everything's going to work out for them.
Yeah.
No matter where they walk, they're kind of fearless. It's like very
hubris.
It's hubris. It's very obvious that these kids have like never had anything bad happen.
Yeah.
Or like significantly bad. And then they walk into this pub, and I thought that the townspeople in the pub were so good.
Yeah, that was a good part.
Oh my God, they were so spooky first, and you could tell that you're seeing them through the lens of the boys, and it was really fun to be like, yeah, I feel like if we were seeing this through like the lens of the bartender, or like the atmosphere would be a lot more fun.
Yeah.
Like,
or whatever was going on the second before they stepped in.
Yes, exactly. So I enjoyed everything that happened in the pub because it was like very clear just how kind of unaware of the fact of how different they were until the entire pub went silent. And like just that was such a good shift in the tone.
Have you ever had one of those needle scratch moments?
No.
I've had so many.
Really?
Yeah, well, it's very unfortunate because it's usually because of racism, usually. But there's been sometimes, like there was a couple of bars here in Edmonton that I've done, like we stepped in and everyone stopped and looked and we're like, oh, okay.
Cool.
But there's been places in other countries. More than once, I've been to a protest where the protest was against essentially me.
Oh.
I've stumbled into right-wing protests in like other countries and you don't know the language. And then I was like, oh, it's against foreigners. Huh, I should leave.
I'm going to go.
But let's go back. Let's go back to the slaughtered lamb. You said that they were easily set apart and different from them. Did you notice anything in what they were wearing, perhaps?
Well, they were very brightly colored.
Everyone's wearing earth tones in there. And what colors is David, our hero, wearing? Hero?
Protagonist?
Yeah.
Red.
Bright red.
Like the reddest red.
Does that remind you of any other wolf stories?
No.
I was going Little Red Riding Hood.
Oh,
I was going to
that makes
segue
sense.
into
Okay.
you know what? Good point, Sam, because I want to talk about Little Red Riding Hood.
I think it reminded me of Little Red Riding Hood.
I kind of felt the same way. I think there is some Little Red Riding Hood in here, and I don't think it's unintentional. So the original fairy tale of Little Red Riding Hood and fairy tales in general are to strike fear and reinforce social rules. It's a story of transgression and punishment. You don't go into the woods is essentially the lesson, but there's also a lesson of having fear of monstrous men who are going to like devour women. And there is some versions of it where the villagers will then cut the wolf open and take Little Red Riding Hood or the grandma out.
Yes.
And then fill the wolf's belly with stones and throw them in the river or whatever. And there's a pretty harsh, striking metaphor for...
Is that not just how the story goes?
It's different. Like, not always... The stones, I didn't know about that until I did a class on fairy tales.
Oh, see, I remember reading that. I was a spooky reader, so I feel like maybe I just read those fairy tales really young. But
Well, they're for children.
exactly. But yeah, so I feel like I know two versions of that where grandma just gets cut out and the wolf is dead and grandma's okay.
Yeah.
Which I always had. I was
doesn't
like,
make sense.
that doesn't make any sense
Yeah.
because it has to go down the esophagus and grandma would have gotten squished and
Or
suffocated.
the chewing up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the rocks in the river.
Yeah, the rocks one I heard later, I think. But I think there is a pretty easy argument. It's been a while since I took my class on fairy tales, but I'm pretty sure that that's all about you go into the woods and you go off with some wolfish guy and you're going to end up pregnant.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So the fairy tale and tales in general are to reinforce these rules, try to teach a lesson through fear. Here it reverses the gender roles, and David is Little Red Riding Hood. At the beginning, he has this bright red jacket. There's no other color anywhere on it. So that's why I'm like, they're clearly doing a thing here. Even though Jack is his friend. Jack is wearing a brighter color as well. I think it's more of a yellow or something. It still kind of lends itself to the other colors people are wearing.
Yes. Yeah. It's just too bright.
And then later, when he is naked, of course, what's he steal? A bright red coat. So he's kind of coded as a Little Red Riding Hood. But I think what's most interesting about this gender swamp part of it is it makes David both the predator and the prey. He is Little Red Riding Hood and the wolf. And I think you could stretch this into a reading where David is trying to be a regular guy, but is haunted by his own latent homosexuality.
Whoa.
No?
No, but you keep going with that.
So, like, of course, there is this idea of something that he doesn't understand and fears that is a part of him. Like a lot of old Victorian writing, the werewolf is often depicted as like a hidden self, a version of yourself that you want to keep buried.
Right.
But it may be more present with his relationship with Jack, because when Jack the ghost, who is haunting him, always appears, it's when he's doing something very heterosexual. When he's sleeping with Alex, he sees the ghost. The next big meeting he has with him is at a porno theater where he's watching like literal heterosexual sex happen.
Right.
And Jack is always there to interrupt him and remind David of something that he would like to forget. But you know what? I don't know. I don't think I buy that much. It's kind of there. It's fun.
I could see it, but it also, I don't know. I think it just reminds you how young he is.
I think it's less about something that he's repressing sexuality-wise and more about guilt. I think that's one of the biggest driving forces in it, because right at the beginning of the movie, Jack's not having a good time. In one of the very first lines, he says, like, "Are you cold?" And Dave's like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Good." And he's angry at him because Jack wanted to be in Italy. And I think even before they go into the pub, maybe within the first 10 minutes of this movie, he says, "Whatever happens, it's my fault." So he already knows that he's taken Jack somewhere he doesn't want to be. And David continues to do things. Like, he's the one that's leading when they walk off the road and onto the moors. which is something that they've been told, much like in Little Red Riding Hood, don't do that. And then it's David who trips first. Jack stops to help him, so it's David's fault. Just then the werewolf attacks. Does David turn to help Jack in response? No, David runs. He runs away. So I think it's set up early that this is David's fault. What happened to Jack, all of these things, them even being there is David's fault. And you can get into thinking, like, is Jack a werewolf curse ghost or whatever, or is he just a manifestation of guilt? You could even ask, like, is David a werewolf, or is he a delusional maniac? Because, yeah, we see him turn into a werewolf, but we also see Nazi monsters jump out from behind curtains, so like, reality's kind of all over the place.
I would believe that he's just a manifestation of his guilt, because he tends to come out when any enjoyment is happening or any kind of like happiness.
Yeah.
Like after he spent the night with Alex, and then like, oh, there's a sexy porn film on right now. Let me interrupt you.
Well, he might have beckoned him into the theater.
Yeah.
But like, I also fundamentally don't like this conversation in horror of like, is it real?
Right.
Because I think it misses the point.
And then it becomes, it was a dream all along.
Because we don't watch Citizen Kane and be like, oh, was Rosebud a real sled? Or was it just a symbol of Kane's lost innocence and youth? Like both. It's both. Movies are fiction. Things that are real are symbolic. There isn't this separation that people are so insistent on arguing about. And it seems like it's only debated in horror. Of like, well, was that real or was it just their mental illness? Like the whole movie is a metaphor for mental illness. So I guess yes to both.
All of it?
Yeah. There's not a separation. This is something a person wrote. So when people are all, sorry, I'm getting on a thing now.
You're really passionate right now.
When people are always arguing like, well, was that real or was that just the guilt? You know, a person wrote this.
Yeah.
And they wrote themes into it. Yeah. And you are just picking up on a theme. And maybe people don't often get symbolism, and horror tends to have more of it. So that's why people have a harder time of like, well, is it real or was it not? None of it's real. It's a movie. And in the world of the movie, the answer is just yes.
Correct.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, there's a werewolf curse, and Joke is the personification of survivor's guilt. Because the ghosts literally want him to kill himself, which is a thing that survivors of traumatic events often feel. Like, why was I spared? I did these things wrong. Right. I have this guilt. And in this case, it's probably more true because he did lead him there. And then when we get more of these ghosts, he killed them.
Right.
So is it real or is it a symbol? Yes.
Correct.
It is.
It really is. And yeah, I also don't love the fact that we like default to that now, because it also does kind of cheapen the thing that they're implying isn't real, like guilt or mental illness, and it makes it less important, I think.
Sure, yeah.
Because they're saying like, oh, it's all in your head, basically, because it's not real.
Yeah, because that's
real
what
things are
a
real.
Horror movie is like. You know what? Werewolves aren't real, but how do we make it feel real?
What?
You make him, he's transformed by this curse. He is transformed by guilt. That's how we make things feel real that are not actually happening. The werewolf curse was passed to David after Jack's death, and its effects can be seen as a metaphor for survivor's guilt or for trauma and how it changes us, fundamentally changes us. It's confusing. It makes him unfamiliar even to himself. He's afraid of confronting his memories and his guilt, and it takes the form often of Jack's decomposing body. So, like, yeah, it's all of those things. It's a very clear metaphor, I think, for guilt, specifically survivor's guilt, and that really dovetails nicely with the idea of what a werewolf is.
Yeah.
So when people ask, like, oh, what's real, what's not? Writers intentionally do this, and I'd say it's very good writing to make something in your world that you can latch onto that's real to you, and then project it into these supernatural, horrific things like werewolves.
Yeah.
That's just horror writing, man.
Yeah, I also think that it's a good way to keep audiences kind of on their toes and not quite sure of what's going on. It can make you a little anxious because you're not 100% sure what's going on or you're really trying to figure it out. And I think that that's also just a thing that horror people do.
Yeah, I think I just get defensive when horror is scrutinized in ways other movies are not, and just dismissed as like, it's a horror movie, whatever.
Yeah.
I think they're often very clever, but I'm biased because I've written some. And if you want to buy some, let me know. We got some scripts to sell.
Scripts for sale.
And then this continues on because when he's talking to Alex, he asks, like, do you believe me? And she says, I believe that you loved him very much and that somehow you blame yourself for his death. So clearly we're getting into the survivor's guilt of it. And then it continues with Alex because she doesn't do anything to kill David, but he does have that line about only someone who truly loves you can kill you or something like that.
Right.
But he still dies, and in doing so, passes his trauma, at least, on to her. She's not going to become a werewolf, but she, I'd imagine, being that close to him and then also not believing him through all of this is going to feel that guilt too. So just as the cycle of the werewolf kept repeating, and it was going on before this movie, the cycle of this guilt or trauma is also going to keep repeating into Alex. So the werewolf curse, maybe not a full lycanthropy, will still continue on.
Yeah, that would be some trauma to see the man you love shot down.
You know what? I would say that's the lesser of it. I think what it's going to be is so werewolves are real? So monsters are real now. Okay, cool. I have to live with that.
Having to come to terms with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a spooky thing you don't need in your life.
So I was sleeping with this guy. Then he went out, killed 20 people, and then was murdered in front of me. And also monsters are real.
Also monsters. Oh, poor Alex. She's really going to need some therapy.
Yeah.
So many different kinds of therapy.
What do you think of the tone of this movie? As someone who has a very special place in my heart for horror comedy, because that was the first stuff I ever wrote, I really enjoy it for that.
I loved the tone of it. I thought it was super fun. I thought it had just the right amount of spooky things, and they didn't make them hokey, which I feel like a lot of horror comedies, it gets kind of slapsticky.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about that. Are you able to articulate what separates this from that type of stuff?
I think it's that, one, everybody, when they see the werewolf, is having normal reactions. There's not a lot of throwaway lines that are like, oh, he's having a wolf of a time, or something dumb like that. And then also there's consequences.
So, if I may, I 100% agree with you. And how I would articulate it as both horror and comedy rely on a very similar setup and payoff. Most of the movies, like the ones you're talking about that get slapsticky, will give you a horror setup and a comedy payoff.
Right.
A monster's coming up, and then someone makes some quippy jokes and kicks them in the nards.
Right.
That can work.
Yeah.
But what I think this does and makes it so much better, and I think very few movies do this, Shaun of the Dead is a good one that comes to mind. It gives you a comedy setup with a horror payoff. So these characters, like David and Jack, they're lighthearted throughout. They want things to work out. They want to be in a comedy, and the horror finds them. And I think that is way more interesting than the opposite, than being in a spooky situation and going into a haunted mansion and wisecracking the whole time.
Right.
I like how this kind of reverses that.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it was an even tone throughout.
Yeah, it never really gets too far either way.
Yeah, it never gets too scary. There's scary moments.
It seems realistic.
It does.
In a way.
It does. And I think that's what kind of separates it from like what I'm thinking of. Like some of the horror movies we've watched where there's like a throwaway line at the end of every serious scene.
Yeah, they use it as comedic relief in a very literal sense. There's so much tension, and then they do that. But I feel like that often undercuts the consequences of what's happening.
Exactly.
And this doesn't do that.
Yes.
Like, people are killed, and not only do they not wisecrack, they come back and they show you the consequences of it.
And you can see him struggling with the consequences of what's happening.
Yeah. There's weight appropriately, but he's trying not to feel the weight, and not in a forced, jokey way. It just seems like that's who he is, and he's reacting in the best way he can, and in a way that he doesn't know what to do with all of this.
Right, yeah. Well,
do you have some favorite scenes from the movie that we haven't mentioned?
I liked the moment where they enter the pub and everyone gets quiet.
That's the whole first act.
That was great.
I think is great because in all horror movies, you have to have this first act that sets up the spookiness. You see like something that unsettles you very early on and then keeps you on edge. And I think this is a very good one of those. I feel like when he just sees the body of the man that was also the werewolf, sees that man shot and naked next to him and then passes out, that would be a great short movie, a great short film, just that whole part, the first act. I
liked how much we learned about werewolves, because the world building in that first act was really great. Or I guess it was more in the second act, but like at the end of the first act, I thought that the being shot and becoming like a naked human again, almost like instantly as you're dying, I thought that was really good information to have without someone being like, he was a wolf, I swear. Like,
we're smart enough to figure
Farmer
it out.
John. Like,
because they already know.
Yeah.
So there's no surprise there, and why would they explain it to us?
Exactly. So,
I really did like that as soon as he's passing out, that he just gets a glimpse of this naked old man.
And then I liked the scenes in the hospital. I thought that was like a fun little meet cute like relationship builder.
I kind of felt that part dragged a bit.
Maybe a bit.
But
it could have been a little shorter.
One thing that I had trouble with at first was, why does she like him?
Yeah, I agree.
No answer?
I don't know. And I was also like, how much older than him is she?
I felt like they weren't that different in age. But what I convinced myself of, because I think this is a good movie, and I know so many movies just very attractive women like goofballs for no reason. At least in this, I think David's a handsome guy.
Yeah.
He has some charm to him.
Yeah.
But what I think it is she's a nurse that primarily takes care of children.
Yes.
He's a helpless, injured person.
Injured person, yeah.
So I think that's what it is. That's her nature, is to care for people who can't care for themselves, and he's one of them.
Right. I could see that, yeah.
One thing I have to mention about this movie, it had 2 Indian characters, and it's not a joke.
Yeah.
It's not, look at these guys, they're wacky, huh? Like, the guy has an accent, he just does his job, though.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That is so rare. As someone who watches a lot of movies from the 80s and 90s and is Indian, there's not lots of that. So it was nice to, as soon as he came on, I was like, oh no, what are they going to do here? I'm going to have to hate this movie now. And no, he's just a guy doing his job.
Just a guy doing his job with an accent.
And then there's that kid who just says no.
Oh my God, that kid was hilarious. That was my favorite. And it was nice to see her interact like a pediatric nurse would interact with a child, not like a adult writing that scene as an adult. Mm-hmm. It was like No, that's actually like an interaction you'd have in a pediatric ward, and you'd get jokey with people and you're entertaining the kids, and that seemed like a true moment and not as much a like adult writing something like that.
Yeah, for as much of this movie that's about completely unbelievable things, I feel all the human interactions are very believable.
Yeah, I agree. I know we've talked about adults writing young women a lot on this podcast, so I felt like I needed to mention that, like, that was some really good, I don't know if it was just acting or what, but it was very believable, and I felt like that was like a true moment.
Maybe my favorite sequence is through the subway when he's chasing the guy through there, because it does some like classic horror things of like looking over your shoulder and the sounds are coming from behind you, and then it does the POV of the wolf. But my favorite shot probably of the whole movie, it's when the guy is chasing us up at the top of the escalator and is looking down, and we just see the wolf from very far away, and we're at a high angle, and the wolf just walks into frame.
Yeah.
And that's the first time you get to like see the wolf
in total.
And I thought that was great.
I thought that chase scene was great through the subway. And like, what would you do? Yeah, and I think that comes from me taking transit all my life too. It's like I really think about where I'm sitting or what I'm doing, and if I don't feel safe, and like what I'm going to do if I don't feel safe. Yeah.
Let's get into the special effects a little bit.
Okay.
Like I said, Rick Baker won the Academy Award for Best Makeup. I think his name's Rick Baker, right? He's a big name in makeup. Hopefully I have that right.
I tell you, but my computer died.
It's Rick Baker.
Okay, great.
So this is way before any sort of CGI. Maybe not way before. It's way before any type of good CGI.
Right.
So there isn't anything like that used. So they did everything practically and just built stuff. Like the parts of the hands and the feet getting elongated is just made by, they'd make a silicone or rubber, whatever it is, and use plungers, like syringes, to like fill things up to stretch them out.
Oh, interesting.
The hair growing was, they placed hair one strand at a time through that and pulled it out and then played that in reverse. So you'd have the hair growing out of it. Sometimes the actor would be buried in the floor, so it's just his head out, and then they would create this 4-leg body around him so you could still have the face moving and everything like that.
Oh, yeah.
And I think the best, or maybe the most impressive part of all of that is they did it in bright light. And if you're, I know not a lot of people have worked in horror movies, but watch horror movies.
Yeah.
Watch anytime an effect like that happens, especially if it predates reliable CGI. It's always very, very dark because you want to hide as much as possible.
And it's fast shots.
You never show something in bright light for this long.
And straight on like that,
It's
too.
incredibly rare because it's very difficult to do. So this movie, I think, still holds up as some of the best makeup. I don't see practical things like this. I know Lord of the Rings had some really good ones, but that also has like a $1 billion budget or whatever it is, right? And they weren't doing things in this kind of like bright light on a budget like this, just showing the effect. They're not hiding anything, and that was real remarkable to me. And I think it still looks fantastic.
It does. No, I think that even having seen lots of movies where there's great makeup, I think that this, it's not like a bad thing that I'm saying this, but like you can tell that it's like all practically done, but in the best way.
Yes.
Like, I don't want it to sound like I'm like, oh, well, you can tell it was all homemade. It's like,
if you talk to horror movie people, that's a compliment.
Okay. And like, you can tell that it is hand done, and you can tell that it took a lot of time and finesse and like getting it right. And I think that is like so good.
It's remarkable still. I also like how it came about, because I haven't seen a lot of werewolf movies, but the transition thing isn't handled great all the time. And sometimes it's just based on like what you have.
Yeah.
Right. In the Buffy world, it's always they'd go, oh no. And then they look up and they have black eyes and they'd go run. And then the next shot, it's a full werewolf.
Right.
You wouldn't really have much. They just have like the sideburns coming in.
Or you'd just see like the hands become paws, or like,
or how often in movies do you get a shadow?
Yes,
that turns in, right?
The like writhing shadow.
Yeah.
That's a classic.
And in this one, I really enjoyed that it's him like just walking around the living room, and then he just starts screaming.
Yeah.
I can't remember what he says, but this actor had really good responses to like crazy things. Like when he wakes up in the wolf pen, he doesn't. I don't remember exactly what it was, but he just wakes up kind of like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh no, how'd this happen? And it seems like, yeah, that's what I would say.
That's what a human would react like.
And he seems perplexed and terrified when he starts transforming. And it seems very painful, which is something you don't see in movies often.
Yeah, I feel like the screaming usually happens, but you don't get the like writhing in pain, and like usually it's so instant when they change over that it's like kind of unbelievable. And like you get the screaming, but you don't always see the change happen, and then all of a sudden they're a wolf. And I'm like, okay, but like what was happening while he was screaming? Because I feel like there's some cool stuff happening there. We just don't have wolf transformation money.
This makes me want to watch more werewolf movies, though.
Yeah.
Did you have a favorite effect in this movie? Because there are a few other ones, too.
I really liked, what was his name? Jack? I really liked his transition.
Yeah, let's talk about it, because that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
My single favorite effect in this movie is not the werewolf transformation. It's stage 1 Jack.
Yes.
When he's at the hospital and he has the cuts, and they're so strategically placed in that they're gruesome across his face, but still lets you retain that character.
Yeah.
And his delivery also was like kind of like, hey, how's it going? Right.
Yeah.
So you don't want him to be so different, but it's at the same time is so horrific.
Yes.
And the hardest thing to do, because like makeup is additive. You're adding stuff on. You can't take stuff away. But it looks like there's so much of his neck missing that there's holes in there. And that, I don't know how you do that.
I thought that, yeah, that when he's talking and he's moving around the hospital room, there's pieces of his flesh that are like flapping.
Oh my, that's exactly what I was going to say.
And I was like, I've done a very brief amount of movie makeup and like wounds and stuff like that. And so much of it is adhered to the skin properly and wouldn't move. And so I'm like, oh, just that little bit of flappy skin makes it so real.
It's so gross. That whole part, I think, is the best makeup. Like, I don't know how it could be any better. Of any makeup I've seen in all the horror movies I've watched.
No.
Stage 2, I didn't like as much when he's more the thriller zombie, when he's greenish.
Yeah, I didn't love that he got super green.
But then later on, let's call it stage 3, when it's like the teeth that you can see. I think, again, that was fantastic.
That was great. I thought he went from flesh colored to bright, like Ninja Turtle green too quickly.
Yeah, I'd agree.
I thought if he had been green where he was red before, that would have been a little bit more believable. And maybe he's like a little bit of decomposition and like black in some places. But to go from flesh colored to bright green, like Ninja Turtle green, I felt like that was one step too far.
Yeah.
And then when we saw the third version of him, I'm like, I almost feel like those should have been swapped. Because he looked a little too supernatural in the second one. And then the third one, he becomes a little bit more human again.
Yeah, but he's more skeletal.
Yes.
By that point.
Yeah. So
I wonder if this is one of those things where Rick Baker's like, oh no, that's what a corpse looks like. And it's just we learn from movies, so we don't actually know.
Right.
And it's like, wait, they're like that green? It's like, oh yeah, they get real green. And we just don't know.
We just don't know.
But I did think the first one was my favorite.
Yes.
And that second one and the werewolf transition was all very good.
Yeah, I agree.
And we didn't even mention that there's also all those other people in the porno theater that have great makeup too.
Yes, yeah, all of the victims. And I really enjoyed that they all had personalities still.
Yeah.
Like the newlyweds, and like it was great because they all had their own personalities and they formed almost like a committee.
Yeah.
And it was great.
And how one guy is like clearly grumpy. It's like, wish I could say it was nice to meet you. But
Yeah. Which
but
is
then
like fair.
The engaged couple is just like, oh, hi. How's it
They're
going?
like so happy, and like
Yeah.
she's like so gung ho about everything that
Yeah.
I'm like, this is great. This is such a good
But also like,
mix.
well, you really should kill yourself. though.
Yeah. Yeah. If you could. Yeah. I enjoyed all the people in the theater just because they were so varied. They did a good job in creating a bunch of different personas, which I feel like in horror movies, you don't get a varied cross section of people.
Because usually they're just playing fear.
Yeah.
And that looks pretty similar in movies, at least, right? And this shows a difference in them.
Yes,
but-
absolutely. And I feel like because this is in London and there is like a varied cross section of people in London, you get a lot of different personalities like you would if you just took a cross section of London just generally. And then also I feel like a lot of horror movies are focused on like a group of people, like, oh, high school kids, or like, oh, all of the football players become zombies, or like something like that. So you don't get a lot of personalities because everyone's kind of the same. Yeah.
So we talked about the end a bit already. He gets shot, turns back to himself, and then the movie just ends.
Yeah.
Hard end. How did you feel about that?
It was jarring, but I feel like I don't know what you'd put after it.
Well said. I agree. I thought you would dislike that when I was like, no, I kind of like it.
It was jarring, but it made me think about the movie after.
That's something that I actually wrote down here, in that it doesn't tell you anything about the movie. Like any conclusion, it was like, oh, so it was leading us this way. It just says like, all right, now you sit with us.
Because it would have been very easy for them to have her like 6 months later in a therapist's office or something.
Or the next full moon and she's turning.
Yeah, like, or just her like in her apartment gazing at the full moon. Like there were so many things that they could have done just to cap it off. But it did make you really think about it, because you're like, and he's dead. And you're like, did he scratch anyone? Who's still alive? Is this happening like 6 blocks away somewhere? Was there someone that he didn't quite kill? Just thinking about that was kind of fun.
There's a lot of dissonance in this movie, and I've used that word a lot, but it allows this tonal dissonance to play in its favor, because we already had that talking about this new and modern, and this movie has no issue combining this gothic sensibility with modern sensibility. And this is showing this, it doesn't care about sequels or world building or the audience's desire for some sort of closure. It did what it wanted, and now it's done.
Yeah,
It's like, all right, we're out of here.
the end.
You sit with it now.
It was also abrupt, like shooting someone to death is abrupt.
Yes.
The end. Like
That
there
was
there
it.
is no extra bits.
They didn't need to get into all this like silver bullet nonsense. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, he's dead now.
Yeah, I liked the way it ended.
All right. Well, overall, I'm very surprised you liked it as much as you did. I didn't think you would. I think you were just going to be like, yeah, I liked it. But... and I guess we're one step above that. Not all the way to love, but like, hey, that was fun.
It was fun.
That was an
It was a
enjoyable
good time.
experience.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I laughed.
So do you have any final thoughts?
Don't get bitten by a werewolf.
That's good advice for
It's
everyone.
my life advice for everyone in this Spooktober season.
Yeah.
Just like try to avoid getting bitten by a werewolf.
I say just play it safe. Don't get bitten by anything.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, I feel like we're already avoiding spiders and like snakes and rabid dogs. So let's just throw werewolves in there just to be
Sure.
safe. Don't walk in the moors at night unassisted.
Beware the moon.
Beware the moon.
Stay on the road.
Stay on the road. Don't be a American teenage boy full of bravado.
Don't be a little Red Riding Hood.
Don't be.
Don't go into the woods alone.
Don't go into the woods alone.
Lots of good tips.
So many tips. That wasn't what you asked me, though. You asked for my final thoughts. I just came in.
Do you have any life advice instead?
I came in hot with advice about werewolves. I think this was fun. I think it was the right amount of spooky. And I feel like it still stands up today.
Agreed. I think it had a great first act setup. I think there were some pacing issues through the middle. I did think that there was a little too much time in the hospital. I wish there were more of the guilt and the undead characters that represent that guilt. I think they were a real great addition. Mm-hmm. I like that this was about a werewolf because it does something that'll... Maybe I just haven't watched enough werewolf movies because we are following both the protagonist and the antagonist. Right? Like David is the hero and the werewolf is the villain, but it's the same person. He's both the victim and the perpetrator of all of the crimes.
Right.
And like I said, this movie contains so many dichotomies like that. Like in rural horror, the werewolf often stands for the hidden past or the feral past of the land or the people. And then in urban horror, it becomes about the repressed instincts of humanity breaking through our kind of like polished veneer of modern life. And An American Werewolf in London does both of those things because it's about that rural and urban horror mixing. And I think at their core, werewolves represent this kind of gray area boundary between humanity and the wild. They embody what happens when the modern, like I use quotes a lot in this, but you can't see it, civilized self loses control to this more animalistic self, which makes werewolves a great vehicle for stories about the tension between the rural and the urban, the modern and the primitive, the past and the present. And I think in the end, this is a successful movie that is horror, it is comedy, and in the end, it's ultimately tragedy.
Yeah.
And the ending and how it ends really puts a fine point on the tragic part of the werewolf, of someone who became the thing they feared against their own will. Mm-hmm. And I think that this is a movie that's equally about identity and loss and guilt as it is about monsters. And I think that's why it like still works today. And then when you mix that in with these effects that you'd think in a 80s movie, oh, they're going to be bad, they're great. Yeah. So yeah, it's a heavy recommend from me. Watch it this Spooktober. But you should have already watched it because we just dissected it all.
We just really ruined it for you. But yeah, don't forget my werewolf advice. Mm-hmm. And be safe.
And next week, we are going to re-podcast one of our classic episodes. And we're going all the way back to episode 23. So right at the beginning.
23?
In 2019, we recorded an episode on The Shining.
Pre-COVID.
Yeah. I wonder if it's pre-good audio as well.
We're still working some things out, yeah.
Episode 23, and this was a great episode, an episode we used when we were part of a podcast network. This was our audition tape. Because I think it was kind of like what this show is about, something that you really had no idea about, got into it, and then we got real into it.
Real into it.
If you're looking for one about like taking things too far and reading into a movie. The Shining is a movie for you.
Yeah.
I believe it was one of our longest ones too, but don't let that scare you. Go listen to it next week.
I think it's very funny that we sent that to someone as an audition because...
And they thought it was great.
We're like, here, listen to a 2-hour episode of our podcast. Okay, see you everyone. Bye.
Happy Spooktober. Well, that was a good one. I had a little